Well, hello, everyone. We are officially live. And MPP Lindo, that would be little old me, is doing something totally different today. Today, I am launching something called People in My Hood, and it is a philosophical podcast. That's right, folks. People in My Hood, the philosophical podcast. For those who don't know me, I am the member of provincial parliament for Kitchener Centre. And I had this idea one day that it would be super cool to start to talk to some of the folks that I have met and been blessed to work with in some capacity or have cool conversations with over the course of the 3 years that I have been the member of provincial parliament here. And when I was thinking about this particular month, which is Women's History Month, and I was thinking about the launch that we just recently did of our Leading Women, Leading Girls Award locally, I remembered a very awesome teacher in my neighborhood. And the teacher that is with me today is Olivia. Yay, Olivia! Yay! So, Olivia, can you tell me a little bit about how we met? I know how we met, but the people out there have no idea. So, talk to me. How did we meet?
We had the fortune of meeting, or I had the fortune of meeting you when you approached my principal and said, there's this great initiative. It's bipartisan. It's run by female MPPs, and it's called Girls Government. It gives them an opportunity to interact with an MPP, to have their voices heard at Parliament in Queen's Park, and to experience what it's like to do the work. So when I heard about this opportunity, I was like, count me in. This sounds amazing. And when I heard it was you, I was like, this is even better. So that's how we met. I think it was 2018, I want to say.
Oh, yeah, it was. And the first year that we did it, we had like 10, 11
something like that,
girls,
but
I
a dozen
think.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the second year, it like doubled.
Yeah, we had 24 girls, female identifying students who chose to join us on this. We actually had double that interested, but
Oh my gosh.
couldn't take
And then,
everybody.
well, and you see, and we would have been able to do it again, but then we had the pandemic and all sorts of other things. And so we didn't have a chance to do it again. But can you tell us why was that important? Because I remember, when we approached you the second time to find out if you'd be interested, we weren't sure if you'd be interested. It's quite a lot of work for the teacher in the school as well, right? So for those that don't know, I come in once a month and I talk to the group of kids that are wanting to be part of Girls Government. And while I am speaking to them, my role is to teach them about the process, like the system of our government, from the beginning when one is elected all the way to the end when you create laws and legislation. And pre-pandemic, when things were open, we were able to then at the very end bring all the kids to Queen's Park. They did a media broadcast in the broadcast studio, a press release around an issue that they were lobbying government about, and then they also had meetings with ministers, if the ministers were available, members of all of the parties, because it is a nonpartisan venture, and it gave them quite an experience. But it was so much work. I wasn't sure if you would want to play with me again. So can you tell us a little bit, why did you say yes the second time? What was so cool about it?
Oh, that day at Queen's, it was amazing getting to see them work with you and the experts that you brought in so graciously to our school. That was awesome. And that alone would have been enough. But seeing them at Queen's Park, the first meeting that they had with an MPP, they kind of let the MPP control the show. And there wasn't much actual conversation about the issue that they had researched so in depth and that they cared about so much. And so then we debriefed with you and talked about how we could achieve our goals, our political goals for the day. And they slayed at the next, I don't know if kids say that.
Listen, we say that. I also say, I don't think you're ready for this jelly in the name of Beyonce. So yeah, bring it.
Yeah. And seeing that moment where they were like, no, we can own this. Our voices matter and we have a right to be heard. And just seeing as it caught fire around the table with that minister and seeing how they felt empowered when they heard each other to be able to speak their truth and to ask for what they came for right? Like
Yeah.
they made that trip and they weren't just going to be talked down to.
And can you remember what their topic was? What was
Yeah.
the topic? Yeah.
So we that year they focused on two issues. The first was the experience of Indigenous girls, especially in the North, and how they have a totally different experience than we have here in Southern Ontario with their education. So the injustice in education, especially amongst like racialized, specifically Indigenized students.
Mm-hmm.
And so they really identified, you connected us with high school in Thunder Bay. And we wrote letters with them. There was some correspondence, being able to understand their daily lived experience and how it contrasted so intensely with what they were doing in their average Kitchener downtown school. And then the second issue that they were fired up about was the experience they had as girls in the public school system with being with experiencing gendered violence or sexual harassment or just not respecting their identities as girls, and how they needed more like they needed to be heard on this, and they needed teaching, they needed attention in the curriculum for consent and for identity.
And that was around the same time that the curriculum had been rolled back. So we were kind of, just for those that are watching, in that in-between period where the health curriculum that we were anticipating had been paused and students were starting to feel empowered. And what I thought was so cool was that like none of that was planned, right?
No.
We just went into the classroom and we're like, we want to teach you about government, but they took seriously this opportunity to take real concerns that were impacting them in their everyday lives and bring it into a project that would let them fight for themselves, like fight for space to be heard. They were brilliant. Like they were brilliant.
Every last one of them.
Yeah, they were fantastic. I actually wonder where they are, like what they are doing now in their lives, because it was just so cool. They demonstrated, for me at least, what leadership can look like in these ways if people know the tools, right? Like once they figured out, oh, I could write a letter and I can go to this website and find out which minister is responsible for that. Remember that discussion that we had?
Yeah.
It just gave them fuel. And when they heard back from the school in Thunder Bay, when they heard back from folks there and got us an opportunity to provide them with some support when the system was failing those young people, and know that their voice could be heard to help other kids. It's just, I think they saw in that moment the reality of the power of politics, you know? If you could, before I let you go, because you're actually like at work, right? Me, I'm chillaxing, but you're, being a grown up, you're adulting. If there is one big change that you think needs to be addressed to provide not just those girls, but your students more generally, with the support and the care that they need, like that, something that would be able to hold them so that they don't struggle in some of the ways that we would hear, because we would have these open discussions in that class. What might that be? What would be one thing that you would want to see change in the world?
I think I'd want to see the adults in the rooms respecting and honoring the voices of our students. They know their minds and they know what matters to them. They know what's wrong in the world. They're very aware in ways that I don't think I was even like 20 years ago. Times have changed and they know what needs to happen and they're not afraid to speak up about it. And I think when they do speak up about it, we cannot be putting those words aside. We need to respect them and we need to honor them and we need to take the steps that they ask for.
Oh, I love that. Like, I absolutely love that. I often wander around the neighborhood and I say to people when I'm in my meetings and such, we have to hold each other with love, care, and compassion, right? And I feel like that is literally what you are asking for young people, young female identified folks, because we were talking about girls' government, but also just young people. And so with that, I just want to say thank you. I am so grateful that you spent some time with me in the middle of your work day, and that you let us go live when that was not the plan, folks. This was not the plan. But here we are. We did it. We did it. So for anybody who is interested, once a week, I'm going to do this. I am going to find somebody that I have spoken to that wants to talk to me about what it's like being in our neighborhood, something cool that they think we need to be talking about, and just do some dreaming, putting into the universe exactly what it is that we want to create, whether it's in our schools or our healthcare system or wherever it is. This has been a short moment with MPP Lindo with her brand new podcast. It's not fake anymore because I went live, called People in My Hood, a philosophical podcast. See you later, folks. Bye.